Great to be with you, off and rolling. On this Wednesday morning with the Phils, they did it again. And not in the positive way that I've been saying a lot over the last 2 months. They lost again and now dropped 4 or 5. It was late. It was extra innings. It was an L. Look, we'll get into the Phillies' reality as, different in the last couple days. Braves now have only 5 games back. They won last night. We'll do a lot on the Phils. We'll do a lot on the Eagles as well. Coming NFL season, the Birds obviously started up in about 4 months, and our expectations for the Eagles. Also the 76ers offseason, as some rumors are starting to swirl around some of the big notable free agents or NBA veterans that may get traded. Look, all of it with you on the phone lines at 215-592-9494. Rich.
Hello, Joe.
Hello there, Johnny.
It took the editors of the Oxford English Dictionary 5 years just to get to the word ant.
Yeah, that means there's too many words.
Ant.
I think it means it was done a very long time ago as well. I think it's a good way to look at it.
I don't think they hired enough people.
Possibly.
Yeah,
but the point is they had to write it by hand back in the day, Joe.
Yeah, they had their work cut out for them. So it's 1884. They started this in 1879, and they thought, hey, it'll probably take like 10 years. So in 1884, 5 years in, they say, hey, guys, we're at ant. Like, we thought we were going to get done in another 5 years.
Yeah, that's good.
We're at ant.
Yeah, I get it. Hey, the Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards last night, pulling his team through.
Or Paul Rudd.
Who's Paul Rudd?
He plays Ant-Man.
He's actually
Ant-Man.
Good one, James.
James, I'm glad I'm not the only one where my brain immediately goes to Marvel.
I know some. I do not know all. All right, here's what I do know. Phil's lost last night, and obviously it's a disappointment. Now it's far from the end of the world, but if you missed it, and obviously it was a late game. Snoozer, 1-0. Extra innings. I mean, Zach Wheeler totally, that whole concept of it's great, we were saying yesterday, it's great to have Zach Wheeler going today. Well, that part was true.
Yeah, he was awesome.
He did his job. 6 innings last night, no runs. 3 innings of bullpen, no runs. Problem was, there was, from the Phillies, no runs. And then when the 10th inning came around, eventually, obviously, the Giants scored on a sac fly. I mean, John, that was about...
It was the Giants threw a bullpen game out there against Zach Wheeler, and, it's the 3rd game in a row that we've lost. There's no easy way to cut this. It's just bad. We weren't good. Offensively, it was just...
Yeah.
And the problem was that 4 of those innings were against Spencer Howard.
Yeah.
Remember him? Spencer Howard?
Yep.
Remember, he was like, hey, maybe he'll be a guy for us.
That guy.
Yeah. Spencer Howard, when's he going to come alive?
Yeah,
and
you're right.
He's that young guy coming up through the ranks. Can't wait to see what he can do. Well, he did stuff.
Yeah,
but
he did.
It was against us.
And there was very
few
hits for either team. I mean, neither team was really getting hits. There weren't that many rallies. Couple opportunities, obviously, both ways. But for the most part, not much. And again, so it was a 1-0 Phils loss in the 10th inning last night. We'll take your reaction. The Braves did win. So the division lead now down to 5. No panic here, not from me. But I'm curious where people are, where you stand on this whole thing, how you react at 215-592-9494. I'll say this, no panic, but, my attention is gotten. Let's put it that way. I mean, you don't want to see this thing go down to like 3. Because if it goes down to 3, now that's a different deal. So, all right, 215-592-9494 to react to the Phils last night. Let's get to the Eagles. John, we had a poll result yesterday and a poll question that we posed as a poll, but we barely discussed really as a topic throughout the show. The question yesterday on the poll was very simple. Are the Eagles this upcoming season a better football team than last year? Are they a better team? Yes or no? 79% of people said they, in fact, are a better football team. I will tell you this. I'm very torn on this one. Usually I feel like it's fairly easy to assess whether my team's better or not. Like usually it's pretty simple. This year it's not that simple, in part because you had 2 different teams last year. So it's like you have to net out what the Eagles were after being a spectacular team and then a horrendous team and then figure out like what they even were. I mean, that alone is weird enough. But then all the changes that happened this offseason, some of which are great, some of which stink. And so, I'll tell you this, when I net the whole thing out, even though I think they have a pretty damn good shot to win the division, because I don't think the Cowboys are all that, I would tell you I lean in the direction of saying the Eagles are not as good a team this year as last year.
Wow.
I really do, John.
What are you doing?
Well,
yes, the Eagles are a better team.
There's a couple different things, man. Losing Kelsey Cox and Sweat, and Reddick, that is some serious stuff to lose.
They are all-timers on both sides of the football.
John, I'll just tell you this. I think there's been a little bit of disrespect to what those three guys did that everyone just acts like without them, they're just better.
Look, Bryce Huff hopefully can replace the sack production that Hassan Reddick is
I don't expect
with.
it. Well, I don't.
Well, the Eagles do. The Eagles expect it, and that's why they're expecting it. They're depending upon it.
Well, they are dependent on it.
He's 4 years younger.
Yeah.
He is every bit measurably as explosive. Now they just want to give him the reps and let him go to work. It's sort of an experiment. Let's see what the in-between guy can do if we give him the reps in special situations. It is but that's not the point. The point is the Eagles are a better team this year coming up. There's a new lease on life. I know we lost both, offensively and defensively. We lost all-timers, but we had all-timers the wrong way as our coordinators defensively and offensively last year. And defensively, we had like two all-timer bad defensive coordinators. Like we were at a competitive disadvantage in 2023 because our offensive and defensive coordinators weren't up to snuff.
I think it's become really fashionable to just blame those guys, Sean. I really do.
Look, we weren't picking up blitzes. Are you kidding me? I know that doesn't win football games. That was the focus. Like, you want to talk about Andy Reid here in Philadelphia? That was the first focus every week. How do we pick up the blitzes? Now, they were completely ignoring that part and saying, hey, quarterback, just go run around and use your skills to avoid. That doesn't work for me. So, but that will improve. That will be better, that we will have a plan. These coordinators will have our players better prepared for whatever will face them. And then on top of that, the schedule in 2024 will be nicer.
That helps.
We're not doing the post-Super Bowl schedule.
Yep.
Offensive and defensive lines, yes, you've lost an all-timer, but people forget Milton Williams is a really strong player, a valuable player.
Okay.
Come on.
All right.
He's more than all right. He's been around for a long time for a reason because he produces. He's a strong player. Marlon Tuipulotu, another guy they depend upon. Both are experienced. Both are depended on, and the players and coaches, they love him. The defensive line is better than you think. Jalen Carter will be better when he, with another year of experience under his belt, he knows what to expect.
They need a lot from him, obviously.
Jordan Davis they both need to show more fitness.
Yeah.
We know that for the long haul. But I expect they know that. They're prepared for that long haul this time around. And then the offensive side, I hear, without Kelsey, what'll they do? He handpicked Cam Jurgens. I trust Jason Kelsey knows what makes a great center. He handpicked this guy. We should feel great about that. It's like a parting gift to remind us how great he is.
But he's
Jason Kelsey.
But he's not as good as Jason Kelsey.
I know that. But Cam Jurgens can be great. He can be great. And our offense can avoid skipping a beat with Cam Jurgens in there.
I'll say this. It's all good and well, John, but I come back primarily to the Hurts thing on this. I really do. Mm-hmm. And my contention...
And he'll be better this year because Saquon Barkley
I'll tell you
holds
this. The
defense like he holds the defense for Saquon.
My contention is that we will never see Jalen play as well as he did in 2022.
Well, I think you're wrong. I think that's a shame that you feel that way, but I know you won't feel that way for long because you'll see it.
Well, no, listen, we will see it.
You're going to see it right away.
Here's what I know. Jalen Hurts, in order for this team to excel, needs to do one of two things. One of two things for sure. And he can pick either side, okay? He can either do what he used to do in 2022 and run a lot, and run effectively, if he still has that in him, and he may. But, I mean, he's got to choose to run a lot, right? So that's a choice. So he either has to go that way, or he's got to adapt his game and to become a much better pocket presence and pocket passer and defense reader than we've seen at any point of his career. There's no third choice here.
He can do that, and I expect him to do that. He's got a new offensive coordinator who's teaching him how to look at a defense differently than he did last year.
I understand that is the mission of the offensive coordinator, and I'm glad that they're of that mindset. It's time for that adjustment, clearly, okay? Because I think what I laid out with option 1 is really not a long-term sustainable option. Can you get through 5 games without him getting injured? Sure. Can you get through 10? Maybe. Can you get through 20 freaking games? I mean, that's what it takes to win the Super Bowl. You play 17 regular season games. You got to play either 3 or 4 postseason games. The objective is to play that game in February. I mean, 3 years in a row, we've seen Jalen be more banged up as the season went on. Now, look, he played a spectacular Super Bowl, obviously, at the end of the 2022 season. Unfortunately, dropped the ball. We all understand that reality, the one play, but otherwise went flat out toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. We were all super impressed. We were all super proud. But something happened in 2023. I mean, I'll tell you what happened. Defenses made adjustments. The simplified version of what the Eagles did no longer was as effective as, frankly, it was much less effective than it had been. So he's got to go in his bag of tricks and do something different. And listen, maybe he can pull that off. Now, I want to be very clear. I don't want to make this just a Jalen Hurts conversation.
It's not his bag of tricks. It's Kellen Moore.
No, but John,
he's the
athlete.
He's got all the experience.
You know what, man?
He's putting together the playbook. Jalen Hurts goes out there and does what the playbook.
John, I gotta tell you something.
You don't seem to understand that plan, the plan that Jalen has, like every option that he has, A, B, C, they all come from the offensive coordinator. They're all provided by the offensive coordinator. Jalen doesn't have the option to just willy-nilly do whatever he wants out there.
And again, we want to hear from everyone at 215-592-9494. Do you think the Eagles are actually a better team this year than last year? All the reasons, we all understand the positives, the coordinator change, the Saquon, we all understand the negatives, no Fletcher, no Kelsey, no Reddick. Sirianni, is he dead man walking? We all get all that. The ledger is robust on both sides. I'll tell you this,
Think about how bad we were, losing 6 out of 7 to some of the worst teams in the NFL down the stretch last year.
Dude, I get
we are a better team than that.
Well, yes, they're a better team than that, but they might be a far worse team than 10-1. I mean, again, you got to net the whole thing out, and it's a weird one. I'll say this, John. It's the first time I'll say it. I mean, really say it this way. I heard you in March and April, in February, telling me and everyone that the Sixers were going to be just fine just because they had time to ramp up Embiid. It didn't happen. Like, just because we want something.
How does that
just because
correlate to this?
Just because we want something to happen doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. Like, I want the Eagles to be better,
So you're
too.
just now coming to that realization?
No,
Look,
I'm coming to the realization I'm still annoyed with you about March.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Because
what
you
is your
freaking told us for 2 months the Sixers are going to go further than they ever had, and they got their asses handed to them in the first freaking round.
And that's just life, man.
No,
that's sports.
I get it.
And it hurts.
But
and sometimes you got to deal with it like a man and just be like, hey, that sucks.
Here's my point. Maybe the Eagles aren't like all that anymore. I'm not saying they won't get back there at some point.
Jalen Hurts
Kelsey, Cox, and
all
Reddick.
that. Jalen Hurts,
we'll see.
Behind this offensive line with Saquon Barkley standing next to him.
We'll see.
No, actually, you know what? With Saquon Barkley standing behind him with his toes at 7 yards, Jalen under center, about to hand the football off. Man, they help each other so much.
Look, it's a fascinating topic. Are the Eagles better? Are they better this year than last year? How do you assess it? 215-592-9494. Yesterday in our poll question, 79% of people said they are better. Did those 79% get it right, or did they get it wrong? Where do you stand? Joe DeCamera and John Ritchie on 94 WIP.